On April 20th, 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, seniors at Columbine High School in Columbine, Colorado, opened fire within the halls of their very own school, killing 12 students, a teacher, and wounding more than 20 others. The two students had even placed two 20-pound duffel bags containing bombs in an attempt to bomb the school before storming it, but were fortunately unsuccessful. After they had completed what they saw as a job well done, the two gunmen turned their own weapons on themselves and committed suicide. According to History.com in 2009, this was seen as one of the worst mass school shootings in history, and it led to many debates on whether or not more strict gun laws were needed, and brought to light the discussion behind the motives of the two gunmen. Unfortunately, no one knew for sure why they had done it. Some people suspected that it was due to bullying, others thought it may have been influenced by video games and music. Additionally, the man who had sold the two boys multiple weapons with about 100 rounds of ammunition was sentenced to 6 years in prison for selling weapons to minors, as well as his indirect involvement within the shooting. Unfortunately, many mass shootings play out similarly to this one, and every time there is another shooting, two topics are brought up. Was the shooter motivated by mental illness or by some other personal issue? And would more strict gun laws help reduce the amount of shootings? Both of these topics are issues that have affected our country for a very long time, and both are very hard to find an answer to. How can we know what a person's motive is for committing such a crime if they off themselves before questioning it? How can we prevent a person from obtaining an outrageous amount of weapons without violating our amendments? First, we need to look at what causes these issues before coming up with a sound solution. As previously mentioned, it's very difficult to determine why a person would commit such a horrible crime. Most people would say that it was due to mental illness. However, this is not entirely true. According to the American Journal of Public Health in 2015, less than 5% of U.S. crimes involve people with mental illness, and the percentages of crimes that involve guns are lower than the national average for a person not diagnosed with mental illness. This shows that not all shootings are caused by mental illness, which leads to us wondering why they ever did it. Perhaps they had a personal vendetta against a certain person or group of people, or maybe they really were mentally unwell. Although not as big of a factor as previously thought, mental illness can still lead to violent shooting, and someone should be there to make sure that a mentally unwell person gets the help they need before they cause the next Columbine. When looking at shootings, many people bring up how our country's loose gun laws helped contribute to this unfortunate crime. With cases like the Columbine shooting, this proves true due to the fact that the two high schoolers were easily able to purchase weapons from a vendor. But when looking at other cases, such as the Las Vegas shooting in 2017, sometimes the shooter had legally purchased the weapons needed to commit such a crime. According to the Mercury News in 2017, Stephen Paddock, the man behind the Las Vegas shooting, purchased a large amount of weapons, and he was able to do this due to the fact that he passed every background check and because there is no limit as to how many weapons a person can own in the U.S. In order to seem less suspicious, Paddock bought his guns from multiple stores across many different states. This all shows how loose and vague our gun laws are and how our right to bear arms is outdated and needs to be modified. Looking back at how difficult it is to determine a person's motive for committing an extremely violent crime, it is somewhat clear that the reasoning behind this is the person's lack of social life. Mental illness or not, a lonely person is seen as someone who is more likely to commit a mass murder than a person with schizophrenia. Looking back at the Journal of Public Health article, they state that many recent shooters undoubtedly led troubled solitary lives, which can then lead to despair. Unfortunately, people that match this loner persona are often made fun of in school or other public places for being different than other people, which could affect them mentally even more than before. A person's mental psyche, loneliness, and proneness to bullying could potentially lead to some pretty violent crimes. When looking at U.S. gun laws, it's pretty apparent that there are many loopholes within the system, not only leading to people openly carrying their weapons since it's their God-given right, but also leading to many violent crimes within the U.S. nowadays. If you were to go to Texas or Florida, you would see many people with their guns in their pockets. Some people are scared of it, while others see it more as a safe area. But I believe that this shows just how easy it is to obtain a gun. According to Giffords Law Center, people who sell guns online, at gun shows, or anywhere else without a federal dealer's license can transfer firearms without having to run any background check. Due to these loopholes, about 22% of gun owners got their guns without a background check. This alone shows just how little we monitor who can buy a gun, which can then lead to such a violent crime. First solution: monitoring a person who could potentially commit a mass shooting. As previously mentioned, finding a motive for a mass shooting is nearly impossible due to the fact that many people shoot themselves before being caught. However, there have been a few ties as to why a person may have committed such a crime, such as mental illness or a lack of social interaction. I believe that if we were to monitor those who show signs of disassociation, we could potentially prevent another mass shooting. I know it sounds very simple, but not much is being done, and many people who try to seek help are neglected due to a lack of money. Although the numbers show that most gun-related crimes aren't committed by a person with a mental illness, I believe that if we were able to help the people that we claim to care about, we could potentially stop the next Sandy Hook from happening. Second solution: modifying our vague gun laws. Looking back at the Giffords Law Center article, it's clear that our current gun laws need to be worked on, and Everytown Research has a few ideas as to how we can solve this problem. They believe that if we were to enact meaningful gun laws, or if we were to enact meaningful gun violence prevention policies that enable intervention before a prospective shooter can get his or her hands on a gun, then there would be a decrease in mass shootings. What this means is that we can prevent anyone with preceding issues from purchasing a firearm. Once again, this sounds like a very simple solution to a somewhat complicated problem, but due to our right to bear arms, it's hard to get a policy like this passed without taking away other people's guns that they refuse to give up. Both problems in this discussion are very complicated and don't have any clear answers as to how to solve them. But if we were to do things more logically, then we could prevent more mass shootings from happening. Many people have, unfortunately, suffered from a mass shooting, either directly or indirectly. Most of the time, no one truly knows why they happened, and many others refuse to help solve these issues or else they'll take away our God-given rights. Today, we looked at what were some of the largest factors when it comes to mass shootings, and if we were able to focus more on preventing this from happening again, our country could be even more safe.